MicroStrategy in the US, and El Salvador is made Bitcoin legal tender. So these are all movements towards a Bitcoin standard.
Welcome to the Institute of Economic Affairs. I'm Tom Clougherty. I'm the Executive Director here, and for the next 30 minutes-ish, I will be in conversation with Dominic Frisby. Dominic is a financial commentator, a comedian, and an author. His books include, you'll see why I invited him, Daylight Robbery, How Tax Shaped Our Past and Will Change Our Future, Bitcoin, The Future of Money.
Let's roll. This is easy. We kill them, and then we go home.
Too long, one elbow, or fountain step.
Counter-terrorists win.
Kind of wish
Alright,
my
now
team
to
would
get
have
started,
been
boys.
moving around like crazy. Like, pick a spot and stay there.
Forward! Grenade! Smoke! Grenade out!
This garage window, what?
Terrorists win.
Alright, way better, guys. Good shit.
Of course. Let us go. Smoke. I'm throwing a grenade. I'm throwing a grenade.
Back in it, eh?
Throwing smoke.
Yeah, the NASDAQ rallied back pretty good. If it gets above like 434 or so, I'll probably look to reshort like the overall market.
Grenade out!
How did he live that? 0 HP. Well done.
We are the best.
Damn it, I don't want this. Who?
Go, go, go!
No, green, please. Thank you.
Got my nerves going a little bit. First clutch of the day. Are you up from when you bought, though?
Sounds like long.
You're just saying you missed out on some of the upside?
Smoke! Smoke!
Garage window.
I thought I heard a guy step there. Maybe I didn't, though.
Grenade!
That's always good. Yeah, I re-entered GDX and XME, and I ended the week up a few hundred. It was pretty good. I think 430.
Decoy! Hostage has been rescued. Counter-terrorists win.
Alright, I'll watch long. We can't give that hallway up.
I don't really think it was that we lost the hallway. They can smoke this doorway while they're covered. But I think it was more that we weren't able to push out front fast enough to actually catch them. Yeah, I'm surprised the sell-off, like, it rallied back pretty good, but I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of chop back and forth. Kind of between, like, the mid-20s and mid-30s, like 430s to mid-420s on the triple Q.
Throw the decoy.
Yeah, it's a weird position, like, we find ourselves in. Because, like, just by nature of how much debt we're in.
I'm throwing fire.
Ooh, almost got myself killed there.
Yep.
We have time, we have time, we have time.
Ah, shit. I lost 1,700 bucks. My grenade hit the hostie. But yeah, because like let's say they cut. Well, I feel like if they cut, all energy, all commodities will probably take off and get inflationary again. So they really don't want to cut. But at the same time, if they don't cut, all like the corporate bond refinancing and the treasury bond refinancing that happens between now and mid 2025 is going to be so high that there's going to be a ton of bankruptcies most likely. So it's like, I don't know. It's going to be rough. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that sound just was.
Got one on.
Was it a follow? Oh, nice. Oh, hell yeah. I don't know why my apologies there. I can't my feed, so the screen over here on the feed that tells me like what event just happened isn't updating. It says the last event was a follow from like 10 days ago. But yeah, I think like we could easily see ourselves going into like YCC, yield curve control, but that's hugely inflationary also, because what you have, like just like when Japan started YCC, you'll have the treasury issuing as much debt as they want. Obviously, like they can't go too insane. But then the Federal Reserve comes in to buy all that debt to support the bond market. So essentially it's a way of defaulting on the debt without defaulting on bondholders, because you're defaulting by devaluing the currency, as opposed to just saying like, hey, we can't pay our debt, so all you bondholders are screwed. Like instead of doing that to the bondholders, they're going to devalue the currency. But that's inflationary for commodities, and they can't really afford for inflation to go up too much. So it's a really precarious position, honestly. Like I do not envy Powell right now. Yeah, I was about to watch a thing that talks of Malay. See, he is devaluing his currency, I think, to a large degree to affect like the debt that they have. But he's also dollarizing, so I don't know the trade-off there. I really want to read more about him and like his current moves, because it's been months since I've really read any updates on him. But that's a weird dynamic there, because he's devaluing like their national currency, but at the same time he's trying to dollarize their economy. So he's basically trying to make the dollar more prevalent to their economy than their own currency, as a way to kind of tame inflation. Our team can't hold either side.
I'm gonna watch paper.
No more talking. No,
They rolled into paper last round and just pistoled the guy that was in there. Like, how do you let that happen? That was lucky as fuck. Luckiest headshot of my life.
Someone look out. Instead of con.
Pierre,
Thanks, bro.
who's who, like, what country is Pierre the president of? I think another really interesting macro thing right now is just like the supply of uranium, because I think the next major energy influx, and obviously energy is the economy, like you can't have a modern economy at all without energy. And uranium, nuclear power is going to be really crucial. And a lot of the big uranium producers have been saying they're going to come up short of their contracts between now and 2028.
the guy's out.
So I think Kazakhstan could become of greater importance, and Kazatomprom in general, since they're the largest uranium producer. Could be some interesting moves in that area.
Come on, let's go.
Feeling a little off. It might be time for a nice little Lucy Breaker nicotine pouch. Why did this guy smoke that far up? He smoked us off. That was a weird situation.
Negative. I'm throwing a flashbang.
Fuck! Most people don't see you in that bush right away, because it blocks you off. That was a weird death. What was that ragdoll effect? He's got the op again.
Nice fuck.
Interesting.
Nice.
Thanks, dude. I
fuck.
almost threw it right there.
Jeez.
Yeah, like when the guy was looking towards bathroom, picking up the hostage, if he would have just been a little more chill, took his time right there, he would have got the kill. But if he's anything like me, you get like that, your nerves going, and you're kind of like, oh fuck, oh fuck. You panic. I always do anyways. The adrenaline kicks in of these high stakes video games competitions. Yeah. I think I'm also really concerned that if they were to cut, that the US gets more and more towards like a feudal state. Because asset prices are going to keep going up and up and up and up and up if they cut. And then real wages aren't going to match that. I live solo in an apartment in Davenport, Iowa. No, no roommates. I think our yellow has no idea what he's doing.
Hostage wall.
Like his movements are really odd. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty nice. It is pretty nice having no one to have to worry about, because then when I'm feeling lazy, I can just like take my shit off and throw it right inside the door or do whatever, and I don't have to worry about like tidying up, you know, being considerate of others. I only have to be considerate of myself.
Easy CT side, boys.
Yeah, I didn't consider it much. Like, I don't think I'd want to necessarily be roommates with like a random person. And since I didn't know anybody who was looking, I just didn't even think about it.
They all want flash. That shit was like hip level to no way that shot you. Back.
Lil Bob is wild. That dude's like, last half he was getting one-shot deegs left and right. I walked around that corner, he instant tapped me.
That's how you play this map, man. We just did real bad on D side.
Let's have at it, mates.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. Honestly, if my mom still lived around here, I wouldn't even be against necessarily living at home if I could get away with it.
Tagged out.
Even being 30, simply because the long-term savings are so worth it. But my mom lives in Michigan currently, and I didn't want to move to Michigan because I grew up here. So.
Okay.
Guess I'm just gonna save. Yeah,
I
if
have
I
a
don't
good feeling
save,
about this round, guys.
I won't be able to
Me too.
buy ever really. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if they cut interest rates, I think it'll be more and more like a feudal type system like that, where people who already have assets will continue to be able to buy assets and push the prices up. And if you don't already own a home or own many assets, you won't be able to buy any because you'll just get priced out.
Throwing smoke.
One guy long with enough. Or scout. This guy's long.
All right, all right.
Lil Bub's a little sus. Like, I don't want to call him out right now for cheating necessarily, but I'm gonna put a precautionary report.
What on?
I almost want to download this replay and watch it just to see him move, because, like I said before, like right there, he started pre-firing me before he could even see me, and then he keeps hitting like crazy headshots. I need to look up another thing of where he's at right now. Basically, he was trying to like dollarize their economy so that the U.S. monetary policy was actually more important than their monetary policy.
With Widow.
Because their monetary policy was like all about regulatory capture. So big political interest groups and really wealthy people had captured all the regulators into basically having their own money printers. And so if he gets rid of their currency to a large degree, he can get rid of the regulatory capture without actually changing the political system.
Throwing a grenade. Incendiary. Smoke.
One paper, one.
Fuck, I couldn't shoot yet. I was holding the button down, my reload animation ended, but it wouldn't let me shoot. I need to, actually, after this game, I'll take a minute and do that, see if I can find any recent stuff on Melee. Because it's probably been 2 or 3 months since I looked into whatever he had done. I just remember the last time being so impressed because he turned their, like, I don't even remember what budget deficit they were at, but he turned a huge deficit into a pretty good surplus within 9 weeks of being president. And I just remember the article showing it in U.S. terms. In U.S. terms, compared to like the same ratio of our budget, he turned a $1.2 trillion deficit into a $400 billion surplus in 9 weeks. So from being negative 1.2 trillion to positive 400 billion. That's wild. I don't know what my team's doing. They're just running wild. Luckily it's Office, so you play this map for the memes, for the hell of it. Small Chinese man.
It's a garage window, that's fucked.
Laying down smoke.
That guy just got a kill right there? What the hell was that? I'll do that when I'm dead even. I just alt-tabbed so I could pull up Malay. See what he's up to. So here's one that sounds negative, but you got to take it with a grain of salt because it's CNN. It says tens of thousands protest as Malay's austerity measures hit Argentina's public universities. Which, of course, all news sites are biased. CNN biased to the left, Fox biased to the right. So you got to kind of take that, you know. But obviously, I mean, austerity causes pain, but it's something that the U.S. needs to understand is like, we can either get something going in the right direction with our budget and have some short-term pain for 5-10 years, or we can continue to be broke for forever and eventually go bankrupt. Well, more bankrupt, I should say. I don't want to get hit with any nades. They threw hella nades. But I think Malay is a perfect example of someone who's an economist being in power rather than someone who's a lawyer. Nothing against lawyers, just that lawyers do lawyer things. Economists do economist things.
Throwing fire.
Oh, somebody smoked that. Wow. These guys are way better office players than our team is. I'm not even doing well, and I'm in second place.
I'm bringing the hostages out.
Oh! George Bush Light. What a guy. That was nice. Well, and that's one of the odd things about where I currently find myself is that I tend to be like a libertarian, pretty conservative. But you have this dynamic where
Dude, what?
without
get there
like
so fast?
with our current like tax structure, we're causing a feudal state because the ultra wealthy can get out of taxes, but the middle class can't. And it's making it so the middle class is dying more and more, and the ultra wealthy are able to avoid taxes and scoop up more assets. And whose assets are they scooping up? It's the assets of the middle class. So as much as I generally am a libertarian in theory, you have to be pragmatic and you have to operate within the system that you're in. And in the system that we're in, libertarian, you know, tax cuts for the rich and for everyone don't work. They just don't. Why would he be there? He probably heard me stepping though. I'm just gonna run in with my MP9 and hope for the best. Spoiler alert, it's not gonna go well.
They're just pushing.
How? I hit him 90 times. He's gonna hit me like once. Who cares that he had a gun that's way more powerful than mine? I'm upset because I want to win. But yeah, here, I'll show, after this game, I'll show you a video of a guy who sums up, like, so, I'll be right back. I'll see if I can get to this, Actually, I'll do it on this window. Actually, no, I should see if I can actually find it first. These guys were gonna... It's funny you mentioned Malay, because I started off by, like, watching this as I was searching for a game. And if you look at the title down here, Malay is actually part of the discussion. I'll let this play out while I look for my other stuff.
Important to note the question mark at the end of that title, and life after the state. You can follow him on Twitter, of course, and he writes a popular Substack, The Flying Frisbee. Dominic, hello.
Okay. I know that was quick, so we barely heard any of that, but I already found what I was looking for. So I've started to make this little Canva, this little presentation on Canva, and note none of these numbers are real. This is just theory right here. So like when you see 1 and 2, those are just to show the theory. They're not like a fixed number or a fixed percentage. It's simply to convey the mechanics of how things work. And I was at work one night, and it kind of dawned on me. This was like December of this year. I drew this. And this that I've kept, I drew 2 other ones kind of summing it up. Like, there's a couple, I know you can't read them, but the Canva presentation on the screen goes over the same thing. So, as somebody who trades and is in the market, you understand how margin works, I would assume, right? Like how margin, leverage, how it works. And essentially what's happening is, like, if you have sound money, like when the US was 100% gold backed, the money tends to slightly appreciate. Now, part of that isn't the money itself. It's the fact that tech is deflationary. So let's say it's back in the day, right? It's like the 1700s, and all of a sudden somebody made like a new wood mill thing, a new sawmill kind of thing that made it way easier to make lumber. And then that lumber was then way more abundant, and it was easier to get everyone carriages. And now you have way more people with carriages, so transportation's faster. Well, that transportation, getting goods to where they're going faster and easier, is deflationary. And it's the same thing with any tech. Like, if you have one craftsman working on making a widget, and he can make 3 of those widgets in a day, and then somebody makes a machine that can make 300 of those widgets in the day, the price of those widgets goes down because the supply is so much more abundant. And when you have stable money, since tech is deflationary and a large part of your spending is on tech, on like things to improve your life, it actually makes the money seem like it's appreciating. So this one's just to show that the green is money, like the volatility of the interest rates on money, and the red is just to show the trajectory of money. So this one is the same chart, but the blue is asset prices. Now, what you have is assets are volatile, but they stay pretty close to the mean trajectory of the money supply, with the exception of, you can see this note up here that says like this is a bubble. So in here, and the reason I asked, how leverage works, is that if you have 4 times leverage in your trading account, and let's say you put in 25K, so you have $100,000 worth of purchasing power. Well, if you go buy $100,000 worth of stock, it only has to move against you 25%, because you're 4-to-1 levered, So it only has to move you against you 25% before all of your money's gone. And leverage works like that exponentially. So if you're let's say, if you're Forex trading, when you're Forex trading, you can get 100 times leverage. Yeah, 100 times leverage. That's why Forex trading is popularized to some degree, because if you put in $10,000 into an account, you can have $1 million of Forex trading power, buying power. But think about what that means. If you are using 100 X leverage, if it moves against you 1%, your base capital's gone. You're done. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're done. Like, your account just blew up because you used too much leverage. So the same thing is happening right now, where with real money, with sound money, like if say it were backed by Bitcoin or gold or whatever it may be, the assets do appreciate. And at periods, obviously, like I said, this is just for theory. So obviously these would be more jagged and different. But let's say the average person who has this median buying power, or even here, buys this asset up here with leverage. Like, say it's a home and you're buying it with 70% leverage. You put 30% down. Well, if the asset price falls to here, that's okay, because your wages are still high enough to service that debt. But the problem is, and this is just detailing that. So like, your risk of ruin in here is pretty low, because even when the asset comes down, yeah, you're taking the hit on paper. You still own the asset, and you're taking the hit on the paper value of the asset coming down, which is the blue line. But you can service your debt because your wages and your money itself still has good enough purchasing power. Now, the only issue in sound money is you still get things like, you've probably heard of tulip mania. So you'll still get crazy bubbles, and if you buy the top of a bubble and it bursts, you're still going to get hurt. But those are generally isolated to like one obscure asset class. And of course, most people cite tulip mania because it's the most absurd. And now with fiat currency, what modern economists do is they say what I said about tech. They take that as an assumed, as a given, essentially. And they purposely inflate the currency at 2% because they're assuming that the technological advancement is going to deflate 2%, which would counteract that and kind of balance the money supply. So as you have the technology making things better, like people's quality of life better, instead of it being deflationary, which is also bad for people who hold debt, because inflation is good if you have debt, because it's inflating your debt away. Since debt isn't a fixed number, if you borrow $100,000 from me today and you pay it back a decade from now, and let's say the inflation was only 2% every year, which we know it's going to be a lot higher than that, but let's say it's 2%. So over the course of that decade, your like the net inflation for that whole decade is 20%. So if you were to not pay a dime of that debt and then pay me back at the end of the decade, the whole 100K with no interest, technically I lost 20%. just to inflation, because the purchasing power of the money I gave you is 20% lower than when I gave you the loan. So inflation is good for people who have debt. But back to this chart, the 2% inflation target, in theory, is to counteract the deflationary nature of technological advancement to a large degree. Well, here's what happens, though, is that as they inflate, the currency and the purchasing power goes down, and asset prices go up in relation to not only the asset itself, but to the currency. So you get to a point where assets are never coming back down to where the normal wage earner can afford to get them without using a lot of leverage. So what you have is a situation where the middle class, and a lot of people feel like they have to get in on assets, otherwise you're screwed, which is kind of true. But the risk of ruin is so high. And by risk of ruin, I just mean going bankrupt, like defaulting. Because if you use enough leverage to buy an asset when it's here, and then it does come back down into here, you might be okay if it's in this region where you can service the debt. But what if you're buying it way up here and it's only coming down here? Or if you even buy it up here and it goes all the way down, like way down, like whatever you got into is a big bubble, and at the same time the currency is depreciating, then eventually, unless your wages go up dramatically, you're not going to be able to service that debt. So as time goes on, the risk of ruin gets to a point where it's just like it's impossible to buy an asset, because if it does go down, you need so much leverage to get into that market that it moving down at all is going to blow you up. And essentially that's what happened in the 2008 crash. Is home values were going up, 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 up. And you hear these stories. If you've ever watched any of the documentaries about the 2008 crash, you had people where it's like, literally one of the people on one of the documentaries I watched was a stripper in Florida. And she said at one point in time, she had 3 houses that she had already flipped a couple, and she was trying to flip 3 more simultaneously. And that's when the bubble burst. Well, the thing is they were doing what they called ninja loans, which means no income. No income, no. Fuck, I forgot. Hold on, let's Google it. A ninja loan is a loan given to a borrower with little to no effort from the lender to verify the borrower's ability to repay. Ninja stands for no income, no job, and no assets. So they were giving out these ninja loans, and what happened is they were also doing no down payment required on a lot of these. That means she was buying 3 houses with 100% leverage on all of them. So if the asset price goes down even 0.33%, 0.33, because she has 3 of them, then she's blown up. All of a sudden, she owes well more for those houses than they're even worth. And the thing was, they didn't go down 0.33%. They went down like 33%. And that's essentially what's happening, is because of what people like myself would generally like, which is little to no taxes on anyone, what we've created is an environment where the ultra wealthy who are connected to politics can use regulatory capture and loopholes to pay almost no taxes, and then they buy the assets. Well, everyone else, the middle class, is seeing their purchasing power go down and down. So to maintain their quality of life and to try to keep getting by, they're selling their assets to the rich, but the rich are stepping in to buy them, which supports their current price and potentially even pushes it higher. So now this guy that's down here in the middle class, seeing his purchasing power go down, now he doesn't have the asset, and he's losing purchasing power to get an asset back in the future. And yeah, so it's crazy watching it play out. If you search Cantillon, what is it? An essay on, there it is. An essay on economic theory. Search any good paper you want to read and just put PDF behind it, and you'll find the PDF for free online. I would highly recommend, if you have time to spend some time reading, read this. This was written in the early to mid 1700s, and this is playing out today before our eyes. Like, exactly what they say happens here is what happened to the US. It's crazy how close it is. It's insane how much history repeats. But yeah, it's this really weird dynamic where, once again, I got to reiterate that as someone who in theory is a libertarian, I hate saying it, but the only real way to get out of it that I can see is you have to make the ultra wealthy, and I'm not talking working people. I'm not talking doctors, lawyers, people who are trading labor for income. I'm not talking about taxing them more, but you have to find a way to capture more tax from the ultra wealthy. Like these guys that are worth 100 million, 200 million, a billion, several billion. They can make, like, let's say you're worth 1 billion and you went and invested in the last couple of years as interest rates rose, you were just investing in T-bills over and over. Right now, if you had $1 billion, you'd be making something like $52 million a year off of just reinvesting into T-bills. So think about that. Not in your asset appreciation, because you have assets if you're worth that much. You have a lot of assets. Just in the interest from loaning money to the government, which means you and me in the middle class pay taxes. And when we pay taxes, it goes to pay the debt holder or the treasury holder, the bond holder. So we are paying the rich to own government treasuries, and then they're coming back and buying our assets from us. It's insanity. That's how you end up in a feudal system. But here, let me play out this video, because this other video shows it. Like, Gary does a really good job at explaining it. And he has way more credentials and overall experience than I do. Economy. Good job, me. I'm like, what's the channel? It's Gary's Economics, and I just typed the word economy. Good job, me. 200 IQ. Yeah, it's wild. Like, last winter when I first had that realization. So, and that's why I've been obsessed with this guy's channel. You'll see like a lot of these have red on them because I've already watched them. Because like I said, when I first I was sitting at my desk at work, and I work nights. So I work from like 11:30 p.m. until like 10:30ish a.m. And usually between about 3 a.m. and 4:30ish a.m. I just have like some downtime, kind of like there's not much to do for me at that point in time. I just make sure all our dock workers are working, and I recheck our system to make sure all the orders are looking proper and the routes are good and this and that. And so I was sitting at my desk during that downtime, and this just dawned on me. And I could picture it in my head, but I was like, I have to draw this to really picture it. And I was like, what am I saying here? And I drew that out. And then not even a month ago, I stumbled across a YouTube short from this guy, and I was like, hey, that sounds pretty good. I'll check out his channel. And wow, like I was like, how have I not found this yet? This guy is echoing, he started before me. I'm echoing exactly what he's been saying for the last 4 years. His oldest video that we're about to watch, he posted right as the COVID debt relief stimulus spending came in. So we'll watch this video. This is great.
This video is about coronavirus and money. Now, this is a really important video. I've been wanting to make it for a long time because huge historic things are happening in the world of money here. Even when I was working as a money trader in the 2008 crisis, nothing ever happened of this speed. Now, what's happening in the world of money here is going to dominate the economy for the next few years, quite possibly even the next few decades. It's going to affect you, it's going to affect your family's financial position. So if you want to understand what's going to happen in the economy going forward, you go watch this video. Now, so far in this crisis, most workers have had their incomes relatively protected. In this country, the UK, most workers are still working and getting their regular incomes. Of those who can't work, the majority are being supported by government furlough and self-employment schemes. Now, as many as 5.5 million workers have fallen through the gaps of those schemes and are getting almost no income support. Now, those guys already are feeling the pain of this financial crisis. But what we're going to explain in this video is how even if your income is being supported, the changes in the world of money behind the scenes are going to affect your financial position going forward. Now we're going to explain how. Now, the biggest changes have been happening in the world of government and central banks. Now, this is happening all over the world, but in the UK, the central bank, the Bank of England, has committed to printing £300 billion.
Quick pause just to show this. He said 300 billion pounds, and they did end up printing more than that. But look at this. Total COVID relief is what I want. This is how much we initially did. $5 trillion. And I've actually heard it quoted at even more than that. I can't remember where. But 5 trillion. So think about that. That's an amount of money that the human brain can't even comprehend. So it's 1,000 billion times 5. It's $5,000 billion. And 1 billion is 1,000 million. What? $5 trillion. 5 trillion.
£300 billion is an enormous amount of money. It's £4,500 for every single man, woman and child in the country. It's more than 3 times the net worth of Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man. Now, when such a huge amount of money gets printed and put into the economy, it's really important we understand 3 things about it. 1, how does it work? So we're going to talk about exactly what money printing is. 2, where does the money go? And 3, where does the money end up? Now, those last 2 things, they may sound similar, but they're actually crucially different, and we're going to explain why. Okay, so number 1, how does this new money work? So I think a lot of people are confused by the concept of money printing. It's important to understand that this £300 billion is brand new money created by the central bank. Now, if that's confusing to you, you just need to understand that the central bank has the legal right to print or create brand new money. Now, we say print money to give the visual idea of a printing press printing out new banknotes. But in reality, nowadays, most money is electronic. So what that means in practice is that the Bank of England is allowed to simply credit its own account with new money. Okay, so this is brand new money. It doesn't come from anyone. It's not raised through taxes. It's simply created by the Bank of England. When that money gets poured into the system, we need to understand who's going to get it. And the next question, where does it go? Now, most of this money is getting lent from the Bank of England to the government. Now, even though this is brand newly created money and the Bank of England is a government institution, the government still has to borrow it from the Bank of England. This creates a debt which legally the government has to pay back. For this reason, government debt has increased hugely already in this crisis. And just recently, UK government debt has gone above 100% of GDP for the first time in over 50 years. So what does the government then do with this money? Well, the government gives most of it to furloughed workers and other workers who can't get their income during the coronavirus crisis. This brings us to part 3. where does the money end up? Now, we know the money is being paid to furloughed workers. But if we look at the actual situation of furloughed workers, they're actually receiving less income than they were before the crisis happened. This is because even though they're receiving government income support, it's only 80% of their original wages, and their original wages are no longer coming in. So this creates a mystery. We know that a lot of new money is coming into the economy, and we know that ultimately it's going to the furloughed workers, but the furloughed workers are no richer than they were before. So where's the money going? That brings us to question number 3. Where does the money end up? Now, we know the money is being paid to the furloughed workers, but the furloughed workers have less money than they had before the coronavirus crisis because they've lost the wages that they were originally being paid. If we want to know who ends up with the money, we need to find out who has those wages. Where have the wages gone that used to be paid to the workers? So if we want to understand, we have to follow this cash flow back through the system. Now, normally, wages get paid to the workers through the companies. But if we look at the companies, we'll find that most of these companies are struggling as well because customers have simply stopped coming to their stores and stopped buying their stuff. So we need to follow the cash flow back one step further to the customers. Now, the customers in this crisis have dropped their spending massively. For that reason, many of these customers are holding more money in their pockets. That money is not going to the companies, which means the wages have stopped. So the people who are holding more money, the net benefiters of the new money being put into the system, are actually the customers. Now, when I say that, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I'm a customer. Where's my £4,500 per man, woman and child? And that would be a good question. The reason why you might not be holding £4,500 more than you were before is because not all customers are created equal. Remember, the reason that customers have more money now than they had before the crisis is because they've cut their spending. But it's not all spending that has cut here. Spending on essentials such as rent, mortgage, food and bills still has to be paid. So if most of your spending is on those essentials, your spending won't have fallen by much. The spending that has fallen is on non-essentials and luxuries. So see here, the customers who are saving the most money are the ones who have very high spending on non-essentials and luxuries. Well, you're probably starting to see where I'm going with this. Who spends a lot of money on luxuries? The customers who are accumulating money during this crisis are the rich. Now, I wrote an article predicting this back in March, explaining how rich people, because they would cut their spending, would accumulate savings and money during this crisis. Since then, data has come out from a lot of institutions, including the IPPR in the UK, demonstrating clearly that rich people have been accumulating money during this crisis because their spending has reduced so much. It's interesting to compare here the situation of a furloughed worker with a richer person in the economy. Furloughed workers have lost their income, which comes from services jobs, but they've kept most of their spending, which is largely on essentials like rent and bills. Richer workers, who tend to work in office jobs and can work from home, have kept their incomes, whereas their spending, which is largely on luxuries, has collapsed. It's important to understand the significance it has on the economy when the rich people stop spending. Now, in normal times, rich people have very high spending, much higher than ordinary workers. Because that spending goes to companies which employ workers, it contributes to wages being paid. This is really important because ordinary workers have to pay bills, rent, food. When they pay that money, a lot of that money ends up going to the owners of the houses and the owners of the corporations, who are themselves the rich. So as you can see in this diagram, in a normal situation, the spending of the rich goes to the workers, and when the workers pay their rent, bills and food, it goes back to the rich. The money flows around in a circle. So what happens when the rich suddenly stop spending? Well, that money was driving the wages for ordinary workers. Suddenly, the workers' wages have disappeared. But they still have to pay the rent, they still have to pay the mortgage, they still have to pay the bills. How are they going to do that with no income? It's a massive problem. And if nothing happens, some of these guys, they could become homeless, they could even not even get food on the table. So it's no surprise that in this emergency situation, the government and the Bank of England stepped in with the furlough scheme. This provides a substitute income to ordinary workers who have lost their wages. It's important to realise that at this point, from the perspective of the worker, things actually look quite similar to how they did pre-crisis. They've got an income, they've got their expenditure. Their income's a little bit less, they have to save a little bit. But from their perspective, the situation is largely unchanged. But look at what is happening outside in the system. Previously, the money was going around in a circle. What's happening now? The money gets printed by the Bank of England. It goes to the worker. The worker pays their bills, it goes to the rich. And then it just stays there because the rich are not spending their money anymore. That means money piles up with the rich and accumulates. And what happens with the government? They accumulate debt. Okay, so we've learned that during the COVID crisis, most people's financial situation appears relatively unchanged. However, behind the scenes, the government is accumulating big piles of debt and the rich are accumulating big piles of money. The next question is, why does that matter?
Big business.
Well, the easier part of that question is to talk about why big government debt could affect you. Those of you who are old enough to remember 2008 will remember at that time too, government debt increased and the government...
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Because, well, and that's one of the problems. That's why I've started this document to lay out like my thoughts on this. And that's why one of the things is FDIC. So the problem with being rich, ultra rich, is that the FDIC only insures 250K, right? And not only that, inflation is eating your money. So the rich have to deploy their money. They have to. Otherwise, it'll just drop and drop and drop. And they can't leave it in one financial institution because only 250K is insured. So they have to go buy assets with their money. Even if the assets don't make much, they're probably going to lose less than inflation over time. And from their perspective, let's even say it does lose more than inflation for a certain period of time, they still have more assets on their balance sheet. So at the end of the day, when things balance out, they still got to gobble up more assets.
Government came in and used that to enforce austerity. Now that impacted a lot of people. It had a lot.
So that I'll delve into right after this video with how it's kind of screwing up wages.
Of effects in many, many different ways. That could happen again if government debt increases again. Now, I'm not a politician, I'm not a political forecaster, I'm an economic forecaster. I can't tell you if austerity will happen again. But what I want to talk about is those big piles of money stacking up in rich people's bank accounts. How's that going to affect you? So, what does it mean if the rich get richer? I mean, if they just stack the money in their bank account, it's probably not a problem, right? Personally, I worked in the finance industry for a long time. I managed money for the rich. I got involved in understanding...
There's something on my screen.
Through that, I made some money myself. I got involved in investing myself. I know a little bit about what the rich do when money starts piling up in their bank account. Number one, they buy houses. But it's not just houses they buy. They buy stocks, they buy shares, they buy bonds, they buy gold. To be honest, they buy everything. Now, let's look at what happened last time the government used money printing to solve a financial crisis. We can look back to the 2008 crisis. In many ways, that was similar. That time too, the Bank of England printed a huge amount of money to try and deal with an economic crisis. What happened then? Well, within 6 years, stock prices in London had doubled. Within 3 years, the gold price was up 150%. And within 10 years of the crisis, London house prices had doubled. What does that mean? Well, in the 20 years since 2000, through that period of crisis and rising house prices, the percentage of young people who've been able to afford a home in this country has fallen from 65 to 27.
Well, and that's one of the rough things right now is there's actually an oversupply of college degrees. So like, for example, myself, I have no degree and I make almost 80K a year. I have like, of my 5 closest friends, 4 of them have degrees and only one of them makes more than me. And I have no student loan debt. So that's what's been really odd is like right now in the US, there's like an oversupply of degrees for a lot of areas. Because like here in Iowa, where the cost of living is pretty low, the average median income is actually only like 50K. So with no degree, just having to work shitty hours, I end up making more than them just because And technically I work in a blue collar industry. I work in the trucking industry.
100%. What will it mean if house prices double again? It will mean that realistically, people who are from a family that doesn't have a home now will probably never own housing. It means that those people will be locked out of the housing market forever. It means that young people will find it more difficult to get the security of a home to raise a family. And at the same time as that's happening, stock prices are going to go up, gold prices are going to go up, the rich are going to get richer than ever before. But it's not just stocks and shares and housing that these guys are going to buy. They'll be in the shops too, and they'll have a lot more money to push those prices up. It's very likely that over the next few years, we're going to see the prices of a lot of things increase. At the same time, what's going to happen to wages? Well, we've already seen the unemployment rate double in this country, and that's in spite of a furlough scheme encouraging firms to keep jobs on. There's currently
if you're at like a true entry level job, you probably are like kind of screwed, because a lot of those jobs will be automated away, which is why I'm long IPGP, which is IPG Photonics company. They own the largest automation integrator in the U.S. Genesis Systems Group is part of their company. But yeah, I'll finish this out, and then I want to delve back into your when you asked about if it's screwing up wages.
9 million workers on that furlough scheme, and when that starts to be wrapped up, a lot of those workers will probably be pushed into unemployment. With unemployment going up and up and up, it's very likely that just as house prices and prices in shops are rising, wages will stay low. Okay, so what can we do? We know that under the current situation, the rich are going to get richer while wages fall, house prices rise, and shop prices increase. It's going to make housing unaffordable, and it's going to drop living conditions for regular people. Can it be fixed? Well, personally, I think that it can. If you go back and look at this slide explaining the problem, we can see what's happening. Money currently is flowing from the government to the rich, leaving the government with big piles of debt and the rich with big piles of money. We can actually fix this with one simple arrow on this diagram. If we start money moving back around the system, away from the rich, no more cash piles for the rich, no more debt for the government. In my opinion, we need to find ways to tax the truly rich in our society by taxing wealth rather than just income. This will draw money from the wealthiest people in our society, the people who get their income from owning assets rather than working. Ultimately, we need to find a way to make the richest in our society contribute to fixing this crisis rather than simply profiting from it. Otherwise, financial security is going to move out of the reach of our kids.
So I think like you have to be nuanced in what he said there too, in that if you apply some sort of wealth tax, it should only apply to people with like 100 million plus in assets, right? Because you're not trying to get at like the small businessmen of the US, and you're not trying to get at people who work and earn a wage. Those aren't your demographic when you're trying to tax the ultra wealthy. Your demographic is like Musk, Bezos, the Google guys, like these huge Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, like all those type of people. But when you asked about wages, so think about this chart, right? And the wages thing comes back into what we've seen in CapEx. So if you've looked, yeah, luxury goods is going up, but that's because it's only the rich. Well, it's mostly the rich that buy luxury goods. And it's funny that the District of Columbia, or DC is the highest, because DC has the most millionaires per capita, because that's where regulatory capture happens. And when you can buy politicians, that makes them rich. But so picture this chart, right? The fiat currency. Well, what happens is when the middle class starts to lose its purchasing power and the middle class gets gutted out. I mean, that's why we have the Rust Belt right now, right? Because a lot of the good manufacturing jobs left the US and went overseas because the labor's cheaper, which is deflationary. Once again, that's why you have built-in inflation. But what we have is domestically, if the middle class is shrinking, what does that do to aggregate demand? It shrinks it, right? Because I only need so many phones, right? I only need so many computer mice, even though I have like a dozen of them, but let's ignore that. I only need so many iPads and so many monitors, right? Even though I might have went overboard on the monitors just a little bit, right? But the thing is on aggregate, the demand of the economy goes down. So when it comes to CapEx for a company, if they see a strong middle class, they can expend capital into expanding their business, in creating more jobs, in paying people even more to do either more hours or more specialized work, whatever it may be. So when you have the dynamic we have now, which is similar to this one, you don't have domestic capex in expansion of businesses. Have you heard the term buybacks? A lot of companies do buybacks of their stock. What does that mean, right? That means they decided that they would make more money on buying back their own stock than they would if they expanded their business. Because a lot of these companies in the US are service-based, and at the end of the day, if times get tough, people can go without them. And once again, you only need so many cell phones, you only need so much of X, Y, and Z. So when you have the middle class shrinking, you have aggregate demand going down. So you have buybacks and you have asset purchases because the rich, the ultra wealthy that are running these corporations and running everything, say, I can make more money through financial engineering than I can providing more jobs, expanding my business. So you see wages stagnate and you see aggregate demand go down, which becomes kind of a vicious circle because as the middle class shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, the demand goes right along with it, which means if it wasn't profitable to expand your company here, it's not going to be down here either. So then, once again, instead of paying more people to be productive, you're not going to pay more people to be productive if you know the demand isn't there. So as the demand falls and you do more financial engineering, that pushes up your financial assets, that pushes up your stock market. Maybe you're going and you're reinvesting in, as an individual who controls the company, maybe you're reinvesting in real estate and gold and whatever. But what you're not doing is expanding a business in an economy that doesn't have the demand for that business, or doesn't have increasing demand for that business. So that's why it plays in negatively to wages, because you're seeing the ability to expand and create business shrink as you're seeing asset prices go up. So increasingly, you get paid more to do financial engineering than you do to do real engineering and build a product. But yeah, I've been binging a lot of this guy's YouTube videos since I found him.
Call Mosquito Joe for a professional mosquito barrier with eco-friendly
I don't
solutions
remember
that
this
start
one, but
working
apparently I already
immediately.
watched it.
Outside is fun again.
Some say the sky's the limit. We say, let's reach.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to explain very precisely what is meant by the £700 billion that has been given out by the government since the beginning of COVID. So people who've been watching this channel from the start or even in the last few months will be aware that I keep going on and on about this number, £700 billion, that's been given out by the government. It's an enormous amount of money. It's £14,000 for every single man or woman in the country. So if you don't have your £14,000, someone else has got it. In my opinion, it's at the heart of this financial crisis. I predicted that because of it, at the very beginning of COVID, I said we would get a cost of living crisis, of inflation, of increasing asset prices, of increasing inequality. So if you understand this £700 billion, I think you can understand a lot of what is happening. It's also a great opportunity to attack the government, ask them where it is, ask them who has it, because it is now held by the rich people in society. But if you're going to do that, you need to understand precisely what it's meant. And we've had a few questions about people saying, you know, what exactly is that number? Where did you get it from? And we're going to explain that all very clearly today. So, first of all, what is the £700 billion? The £700 billion is the total government deficit since the beginning of COVID. If anyone doesn't understand these terms, don't worry, because it's going to be explained very clearly. It's the total government deficit since the beginning of COVID, which is also the same as the total increase in government debt since the beginning of COVID, which you can understand as the total amount of money given out since the beginning of COVID. It's a public record number. We'll put a little link to just a public website that shows exactly the government debt, so you can see exactly how much it has increased. And what it is it's the total amount of government spending over and above government taxation. So when the government spends money but funds it through taxation, that doesn't increase the amount of money in society, it just moves it around. So if I come to you and I tax you £100 and I use that money to pay school teachers, to pay doctors, to pay nurses.
Oh God, images? Am I going to regret this? Am I going to regret this?
From one person to another. No increase in total amount of money in society. But when the government spends money without...
All right, I won't get banned for that, you know? I want to make the image larger. Right, but notice this chart data ends in 2012 too, though. Like over the long run, it is correct. Like college grads definitely make more, but if you look at just the last like 4 to 5 years, blue collar jobs, like the pricing power of blue collar jobs went up quite a bit, and the pricing power of graduate degrees, especially bachelor's degrees, actually dipped. So I'm talking like 2020 to 2024, like that range post-COVID, the blue collars saw bigger real wage gains than any other group. But that is not the norm. You know, like I fully recognize that is not the standard over like a longer data set. Yeah, if anything, I'd say right now people have been saying this for better than a decade now, probably almost 2 decades, but you should get into, if you're going to be some kind of engineer, be like a machine learning or Python coder in code AI systems. I mean, that's what people, or be like a petroleum or nuclear engineer, because if there's 2 things that it's going to take to make the economy like go to the next level, go to the future, it's a fuckload of energy, because AI and data centers take a lot of energy. So it's a lot of energy, and a lot of AI coders and systems maintenance people and networking admin, those type of people are going to be super high demand.
Without taxing, that does increase money in society. And I think it's important to understand how that works. So the first thing to understand is, okay, if they're spending money and they're not getting it from taxation, where are they getting it from? Now that £700 billion has been funded in basically 2 ways. So 450 billion of the 700 billion has been funded by QE, quantitative easing. That is a term that confuses a lot of people, and we will explain it. And the other £250 billion has been borrowed essentially from the private sector, from individuals, and we'll get into that as well. This is more 450 from QE, quantitative easing, and 250 from traditional borrowing. Now let's start with the 450 QE because that confuses a lot of people, and it also shows you really neatly how this leads to cash accumulation by individuals in society. So QE, which stands for quantitative easing, is a concept which has confused a lot of people. And I'm going to provide a slightly simplified way of understanding it, which I think helps understand crucially how it affects the economy and society. So I'm going to set forward that when you hear QE, what you should understand is that that is the central bank, in this case, the Bank of...
I wish there was one that showed... Try to find one that shows tradesmen as well. I don't know if it's possible to do that, because I'd like to see that. Because like I said, so this is showing $2023. They make 60K. Like I said, I have no degree. I have 0 degrees, 0 college education, and I make almost 80K. So I'm another 20K. So percentage-wise, I'm 25% above what it's saying a bachelor's degree could get me. So I'd almost like to see trade workers in here too, you know? But yeah, if you're someone who right now is like, if you're working in a job that only takes a high school degree and you're not actively seeking a degree or some sort of post school education, whether that be a trade or coding certificates, project manager stuff, like that's going to be rough. Yeah, true. Because I've had more time like in the job market. But also, like I said, so when I referenced earlier of my 5 closest friends, 2 don't have degrees. 1 like dropped out of school. 1 never went to school. Actually, no, I lied. He went to school and got a degree from a tech college to be like an electrical something, not an electrical engineer, but it's somewhere between an electrical engineer and an electrician, if that makes sense. I can't remember what the name of the program was. But of the 3 with degrees, 2 are electrical engineers and 1 is a mechanical engineer, and only 1 of them makes more than I do. And they have bachelor's degrees in electrical engineering, and I make more than they do, and I don't have student debt. Now, I'm not saying that just because I experienced it, that's the norm. Like, obviously, the data will show that that's probably not the norm. But it's just weird to me because they're electrical engineers and they're making like 10K less a year than I am, and they work in the same area of the country. But also that could be the problem. Like, maybe the demand for their degree isn't that high here and they'd make well more moving somewhere else, even adjusting for living standards adjustments. Yeah, but at the same time, you have to adjust that against mine too. Because, for example, the next position up from me at where I work, which I don't plan on continuing to work here. Yeah, student debt is it's so absurd in the U.S. that a lot of the student debt has came because of the expansion of administrators, and they're not actually like they're adding so much of a debt load to people, but they're not really worth their weight at all, which is really annoying. But for example, like one of my closest friends at work is a separate position than I am. He travels, and he makes like, I want to say mid 90s. So let's say they continue their job trajectory as an electrical engineer, And then if I continue in mine, I could either go to being the next level up from me, which makes like basically 100K plus pays out bonuses like every, I don't know how, I'm thinking it, I think it's either monthly or quarterly. You get bonuses based on your terminal's productivity. So it's 100K base plus bonuses, or I could take a traveling position, and right now it pays like 90 something K a year. And also neither of those people have degrees. So I think but once again, I'm still on your side overall in the argument. I'm just saying like there are definitely options out there if you want to get into like the trades or a different industry. It's just if you have a degree, your quality of life is going to be way higher. Like my quality of life, like my work life is shit. I work 10 to 12 hours a day of nights. I lift heavy shit. I got a battle wound on me right now. I lift heavy shit. I'm exposed to the cold. Like if you have a degree, even if you make slightly less than I do, you're probably going to be treated way better. And that is important. And that's something that like even me comparing just the monetary side like I have, that's something that you can't really account for. Because for example, the guys with engineering degrees that make less than me, I guarantee their work-life balance and their overall like quality of life while they're at work is exponentially better than mine, you know? And how do you put a dollar term on that?
Of England, printing money and lending it to the government. So you should understand that the central bank, Bank of England here, or Federal Reserve in the US, European Central Bank in Europe, prints money and lends it to the government. And this is one way that the government can finance its spending. Now, I'm going to briefly elaborate a little bit on this simplification because I know there'll be people who will be watching who will say, that's not what QE is, that's not how QE works. But if you don't understand this slightly more detailed explanation of QE, what you should keep in your head is that QE is when the central bank prints money and lends it to the government, okay? In actuality, what happens is the government borrows money from the private sector, from individuals, from banks, and then at the same time, the central bank buys those loans from the banks. Now, imagine you are the private sector, you are the banks, and the government borrows money from you. The government borrows £100, it gives you an IOU for £100, IOU £100, £110 plus interest in a year's time. Then the Bank of England comes in and buys that IOU from you for £100, or maybe for £101. So you lent money to the government, and then you immediately sold that debt for the same price to the central bank. Effectively, it's as if you weren't there, right? You made the loan to the government, then you got rid of the loan. You're a middleman. And the end result is that the government owes money to the central bank, and the central bank has given money to the government. You see what I'm saying? So technically, the central bank doesn't lend the money directly to the government. There's a middleman in between who basically stands in the middle and takes the money from the central bank and gives it to the government. But that is not particularly relevant for the end result. The end result is the central bank prints money, that money gets lent to the government has the money. So the way you should understand QE is that it is central bank prints money and lends it to the government. Does that make sense? What is useful about this from the perspective of our understanding is because that money has basically been magicked up out of nowhere, it makes it really clear how when the government spends this money, which is runs a deficit, how that increases the amount of money in society, right? So, say I'm the government, I borrow money from the central bank, £700 billion, what, £450 billion. At this point, you're not affected, right? It's just a transaction between the government and the central bank. But when the government then gives that money out, it's brand new, fresh money in society. And 450 billion is created. So it's in the case of the QE, quantitative easing funded deficit, it's really clear how this just leads to increased cash holding in society, right? Couldn't it be clearer, really? The government prints it, it goes through the private sector, but it ends up being lent to the government, and then the government just gives it out. And I think this captures something which we spoke about in last week's video, the What is Money video, which is that the central bank cannot give money out. They can only lend money. But government can give money out. So the central bank lent 450 billion to the government, 450 of the 700, and the government gave that out. And this, at the beginning of COVID, that number was 250. We could see then that it was going to be increased. But it was basically that simple understanding which enabled me to make a lot of money trading at the beginning of COVID, because you could see, okay, the central bank is going to lend 250 billion to the government. The government's going to give 250 billion out. We know someone is going to end up with a ton of cash. Even 250 billion is still £5,000 for every adult in the country, right? So we knew there's going to be a ton of money given out, right? Someone has to have the money. If people have more money, it's going to push up prices. Asset prices will go up. And this is how it was very predictable from the beginning of COVID that, for example, house prices would increase. Now, most mainstream economic pundits were predicting a collapse in house prices. But if you understood, well, you know, the government and the central bank together are giving a ton of money out, we know that actually it's much more likely asset prices will increase. So what is nice about this QE-funded money? Even though QE itself can be a bit confusing, and I think you understand now what is meant by QE. Yeah, the central bank prints money and lends it to the government. What is nice about it is it creates a very clean increase in cash holding in society. It's very clean, it's very clear, because that money hasn't come from anywhere. It was printed by the central bank, given to the government, and put out into society. So that's 450 billion of it, and we know now it has to be held by somewhere. It's like if you pour 450 litres of water into a swimming pool, you know that water has to be in there. That money has been poured into society, and somebody has to have it. Somebody has to have it, nice and easy. One little thing I will add on this is that the central bank pays interest on that money. So even though the government and the central bank between them have created this money, it's still basically interest-bearing debt, because the central bank pays the base rate on that money. The base rate has gone up and up, so now the central bank actually has to pay interest rate on that money. Another thing is, this creates an interesting situation where the government owes a lot of money to the central bank. And the central bank is essentially a part of government. So it raises the question of, is this really government debt? And I would say, yes, it should be counted as government debt because the central bank pays interest on it. So you're paying interest on it like any other debt. And technically it is included as part of the government debt. Okay, so 700 billion is the total deficit. 450 billion of that funded by QE. We know that because that's brand new, fresh money, that it exists in society. Somebody has to have it. It's not complicated. You follow that? The other 250 billion is funded in the more traditional sense of government borrowing. And what that means is borrows money from pension funds, from wealthy individuals. A lot of the time you think you have money in the bank, your bank will actually use that money to buy government bonds and will be holding government bonds. So essentially the money in your bank account is used to buy government bonds. And it's a little bit more complicated to understand now, okay, is society richer now? Because in the case of the QE, it was absolutely brand new money poured into society, okay? Now let's consider what happens if the government borrows 250 billion and then spends it into society. Okay, so imagine your society, okay, and you've got £100. I walk into the room and I borrow that £100 off you and I give you an IOU. Are you richer? Not really. You used to have £100, now you've got an IOU for £101, say, if we include interest. But then I give the £100 back to you. Are you richer now? See, what makes society richer is not the government borrowing, it's the fact that the government borrowed the money and then gave it back. So if I borrow money from you and then give you the money, then you have the credit and the money. And I think what makes it even neater is often the bank does that basically without you knowing. So you have £100 in the bank. The government comes and borrows £100 from the bank and then gives you the £100 which you put in the bank. So now you have £200 in the bank. So the answer is yes, you're richer. If somebody borrows money from you and then gives that money to you, you are richer because you have the money and the credit. And often all you see is an increase in your bank account because the borrowing goes on by your bank. Your bank lends the money to the government gives the money to you, and you are richer. So it's not that complicated, really. If somebody borrows money from you, i.e. the government, and then gives you the money, you double your money. Does that make sense to you? It's, you know, and I could do it again, right? You know, you've got £100, I borrow it from you and I give it to you. Now you've got £100 and £100 borrowed. Like now £100 also owed to you. Okay, you lend me another £100, I give it to you again, you know. So of course that makes society richer. So basically, the end point here is, no matter how the government funds its borrowing, be it by printing money or by borrowing money from...
I want to see one of the ones with an interview of him, because some of those ones are pretty good. It goes into, I think maybe this one, goes into a little bit of his time. He made a fuckload of money just after the global financial crisis, like the '08 crisis, and then also during the Fukushima disaster.
Auto insurance all seems the same until it's time to use it. With USAA, it's easy to file.
This is a clip from my upcoming interview with Waterstones about the book, The Trading Game.
I bought that book. I haven't started it yet, though.
If you pre-order from Waterstones using the code in the description, then you can get 20% off. So that will be valid for all pre-orders, so up to March 4th. I hope you enjoy the interview.
You describe very well the sort of unhappiness, actually, that comes from being given that kind of wealth, living the kind of life you were living, going to different parts of the world as part of your job. But really, none of that actually making you happy or filling the void.
You know, it's a funny one. This didn't get into the book, actually, but I remember having, suddenly it's come back to me, one conversation I had with the girl who I was dating at the time, and I got this first big bonus. And it's one of the first few moments when I sort of actually thought about, why does this money not make me happy? And I think when you're, I don't want to glamorise poverty at all, but when you're young and you come from where you've got nothing, everything's like a positive bet, because you've got nothing to lose. And then suddenly you get given this money, and it's like, I've never had anything. You know, when I was a kid, I lived in a tiny little bedroom with my brother in a bunk bed, and everything I owned was in a random shelf, not like a shelf from like a chest of drawers that had been taken out of the, just under the bed. Everything I owned was in that drawer. And then suddenly someone gives you £500,000. You know, like I didn't have my own, you know, I'd never owned anything. When I was scared of shops. I didn't know how shops worked. I'd never been in the shop. Yeah, so, and then suddenly you get £500,000.
I'm going to turn the volume down on the game.
What do you do?
Casually
and then there's
the
a scene in the book where they say, buy something for your dad. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. You know, because like, I've never bought anything for anyone. They're like, what does your dad like? I'm like, oh, he likes football. You buy him Sky Sports then. I buy him Sky Sports. But what they didn't know was, before I was working at the bank, I used to go with my dad to Leyton Orient every week. You know, it was £23 a year for a season ticket for kids. And we used to sit next to each other and watch the game with Harry Sandby, who's also a character in the book. But when I was working at the bank, I didn't have time for that anymore. I was so busy. So then they think that this money is like a path for me to bring happiness to my family. They don't realise that actually it's taking me away from my family. And then I would wake up on Saturdays and I'd see my dad watching the midday kickoff on Sky Sports, and it would make me so unhappy. And it was just this, but it's another one of those things that you just kind of, you compartmentalise, and you hide away the things that you're losing, and you focus on the things that you're winning. But you know, I think the book, it captures it very well, this sort of descent into unhappiness, and also perhaps sort of madness that came. So what do you do? I think there's this, but it's not just me, even though I come from a poor background. I think there's this.
I want to talk about his time as a trader.
To some degree, have traded their happiness for money.
That's
and are trying to trade it back. And that's why you see them, they go and they buy, you know, amazing new bike and they never ride it. They buy a whole new set of skis. They're trying to buy back the happiness and the youth that they've traded away. And it's a big thing I wanted to get across in the book is the sadness of these space. You know, that is a room full of very unhappy men and very wealthy unhappy men. And what does that mean that we've constructed our society in that way?
There are some, as I said earlier, fascinating characters in the book that you worked with. And I wonder if we could talk about a couple of them. The first of them is the man who sort of frames the book, because he's there at the beginning and he's there right at the end as well, which is Caleb. Could you tell us a little bit about Caleb and why he's such an incredible character? Yes, I mean, Caleb was the guy who ran the trading game competition. And very smooth, charming, charismatic man. He was the youngest ever managing director at Citibank, which is like a really big deal. And he sort of comes in, he's this massive guy, larger than life. And he recognised very quickly Gary's like
really, really smart. Let's get this guy in. And of course, you know, I'm just like a little kid basically, and I see this guy like he's a super rich trader, like he's the guy. I want to be like this guy. And then he hires me, he brings me in, and then very suddenly he leaves, and he leaves. It's like because he's in a sense he's like lived the dream. And another big theme of the book is, do you leave? Can you leave? Do people leave? And this guy does it. And then that sort of, but you know, as it develops, it turns out that this departure
that
was
would
not
be
as
so
simple as
hard to leave,
as it seems, and
making
perhaps
hundreds of thousands and even
he had appeared to be
millions,
able to leave, but he wasn't able to leave, and
but
sort
being
of,
depressed.
You know, I don't want to give
How
too
do
much
you ever
away,
leave
but it
that?
raises questions essentially about appearances. This guy appeared so seductive and so complete, and yet he was unable to leave despite being super rich. And this mirrors, of course, my own journey, which my own beginning of questioning, should you leave?
No.
And of course,
Fuck.
that raises bigger questions about, really, I think, the effects of money and the effects of greed and the effects of power on the individual. And you know, I think we all face these questions on some level. You know, we all pursue money and have questions about, you know, should I work harder? Should I spend more time with my family? But he was my first ever boss, and he was also my final boss. He was not my boss the whole time. And our relationship went on a journey, let's say.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away, but the
No.
readers can experience what I experienced.
Yeah, because there is something almost mafia-like in the sort of the threat of you not basically being able to, as you say, are you going to get paid?
Yeah.
Is what the question you keep asking in the book. Because if you try to leave the job, your bonus, for those who don't understand, is not simply a big check that you get and that's it. It's paid incrementally over a period of time.
Yeah.
So that means if you say, I'm leaving the job, goodbye bonus.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you actually get the money that you're supposed to get?
Yeah. I wanted to sort of, one thing I really wanted to do with this book, I think, like, I was quite lucky, like, from a literary perspective. You've got a nice opportunity here, because I grew up in East London, not far from these skyscrapers. And then I work in this space. And these two spaces physically are not that far apart from one another. But they're completely different worlds, right? So you want to play with, like, the contrast. Me going in, you know, talk about waking up, like, and having a shower with this little hand hose from Argos that you plug into the taps, and then, like, going into these massive skyscrapers, and then working with these millionaires, and then going home to your, like, crowded house and this kind of thing. But you know, the opening scene of the book is basically me being threatened by this character Caleb, and it's very mafia-esque, you know. And you know, when I was a kid, I come from a very poor background. I grew up in a pretty rough area. I was expelled from school for selling drugs. You know, I wouldn't say I was a drug dealer or ever a criminal, but you know, these elements existed around me in the street I grew up. You know, there were drug dealers and there were criminals. Like, I grew up with these people, and you know, I did the right thing. I studied hard. I got a good job, and you kind of think that you're going that way. You're choosing another path, and then I quickly became very senior at Citibank, and then you suddenly see, like, well, when you're doing what they want you to do, everything's fine. As soon as you start varying, suddenly these guys are acting just like the same way the drug dealers on the street act. And what I wanted to do was, you know, collapse that physical space and say, listen, these people may look very different, and they may run your life, and they may have all the power. But once you dig a bit beneath the surface, you know, are they any better than us? Are they any, you know? And you know, my experience of those two spaces was, you know, they're basically the same, you know. And I think that is an empowering message, you know, to people from both sides of the coin, which is like, you know, if you come from a poor background, don't think these people are better than you, because they're not. And if you come from a rich background, don't think you're better than those people, because that can get you in trouble, you know. And I think that's very, very relevant in this society we live in, increasing inequality, you know. And people who know the work I do outside of this book will know this is something I'm very passionate about. I think it's a massive problem.
One of the fascinating characters in the book is Billy, who's quite an enigma. But tell me a little bit about him and why he was so important.
So Billy was the only trader on my desk who didn't go to university. And when I started working there in 2008, he was already in his mid to late 40s. He's from Liverpool. He's a Scouser. He had a strong Scouse accent, and he, from a very working class background, he started working as a teenager on the cash desk at Halifax. And he's managed to work his way up over the course of like 30 years to being a senior trader at Citibank. And when I turn up, he's had a rough couple of years. He's not done very well, and basically hates everyone on the trading floor. He thinks that they're really posh, and people are like, "Who's this guy? Who's this dickhead? Basically, he's not making any money." Yeah. But I obviously, because I see like he's from sort of similar background to me, and I think like this is a guy I want to make friends with. There's one scene really early in the book when some guys on another desk keep playing music, and he keeps saying, "Can you turn the music down?" And they keep turning it back. "Can you turn the music down?" And eventually, he just pulls the speakers of the wires of the speaker through the desk and just snips them. And I was like, and then the guys come, what's going on? And then I was like, this is the guy I want to hang out with. But suddenly in 2008 crisis, this guy just makes an absolute unbelievable fortune. And it turns out he's been sitting there just betting that the world's going to blow up for years. And we formed a very close bond, and he sort of takes me under his wing. And he kind of becomes, I guess, a bit of a spiritual guru to me in a way, and also a trading guide because he's a very, very good trader. And after I have my first big loss, which is into my second year as a trader, I instinctively went back to the textbooks. I started bringing my textbooks into the office. And I'm sitting next to Billy by this point. I'm like Billy's junior. And I'm reading the textbooks every day. After like second or third day, Billy just can't take it anymore, just slaps the textbooks out of my hand, straight into the bin. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're not a kid anymore. You're not going to find out the key to the world in those textbooks. If you want to know what's happening in the world, if you want to know what's happening in the economy, go home and ask your mum what's happening in her economy. Ask your friends' mums. Walk down the high street and look at what's happening. Shops are closing down. Look at the homeless people. Is there more or less of them? Look at what's being advertised on the tube." And he basically says to me, if you want to understand the economy, time comes, you have to go out and look at the fucking economy, basically. You can't just read about it in books. And that was, a big moment for me where it sort of, and in a sense, is sort of the catalyst for everything that's happened since, which is my willingness to sort of step out of the theory and into the world, and that's sort of what propels me into becoming the very successful trader I became.
Yeah, because you had a good sense, as you say, of what was actually happening. So that after that crash that you mentioned, where Billy makes a lot of money, everyone's expecting for things to return to normal.
Yeah.
But your sense told you it's not. It's not going to return to normal. It's broken. Interest rates are going to stay low. Everything's going to stay down here, and that was how you made your millions. As a trader, because you kept betting against what everybody else was expecting. We were talking about the sort of the moral deviousness of something like Wolf of Wall Street. Obviously, looking back now, making huge amounts of money when you're doing it on a sort of about wealth inequality, as you say, that's what you could see. How did it feel writing about that? And sort of now, obviously, you're an activist in terms of economics, but how does it sort of square with you, sort of having made that money basically off the back of a broken economy?
Yeah, there's this one scene in the book which I think is quite good, so myself, which is where I kind of have this penny drop moment where I finally realise this is it. This is what's going to happen, which is, I start to realise, like, it's 2011, which is the year of the sovereign debt crisis, so like all of the big governments in Europe basically collapse financially. And I start to see, before this has happened, like these governments are going to go bankrupt. And I start to see the similarity between them and my friends families that are losing their houses, going into debt. And I start thinking, okay, well, all the ordinary people are losing their assets, going into debt. Governments losing their assets are going into debt. Where's it going? And then I'm surrounded by these millionaires. So okay, what we have here is, there's a shift of power, there's a shift of ownership, there's a shift of wealth. It's being drained out of the middle class, out of governments, into the rich. Well, what are the rich going to do with that? They're going to buy more assets, which means it's going to accelerate, which means that the middle class will become completely impoverished. There'll be an explosion in poverty in this country. Governments will be bankrupted. It's going to, it's going to cause basic collapse of Western society. And then there's this penny drop where it's like, I know what I've got to do. I've got to buy green Eurodollars. You look at it back and you're like, here is a very talented young kid. He's obviously smart. He's figured out a really important thing. And his instinct is monetize. And that is the person that I was trained to, that was my job, you know what I mean? So it's sort of, I think it's, when I look back, I don't think about it morally. I'm a mathematician in my heart. I think, listen, this is the society we've built. There are people whose job it is to manage our economy, and they get paid 50 grand a year. And there's people whose job it is to bet on our economy, and they get paid £2 million a year. Right, if that is how you construct your economy, what do you think is gonna happen? You know, and I've walked away now from that money, and now I sort of try to prevent, you know, our economy collapsing. Not doing the best job of it so far, but I'm still going for it. I'm not out here trying to be Mahatma Gandhi. I'm not a moral philosopher. You know, what I wanted to do with this book, I didn't want to make any like moral judgments. You know, it's a bit like, have you read Candide by Voltaire? I think the most powerful way to show people how broken our system is not for me to tell them it's broken. It's for me to take them with me, take them to the places I've been, take them to the top of the mountain and show them the tsunami that is coming. You know, and people can make their own judgments about whether it's right, whether it's wrong, you know. People who are interested can go and look at the work that I do now. They can look at my YouTube channel, and I think it's pretty clear where I stand on it. But, you know, I was a young kid. My job was to bet on the economy, and that's what I did. And it's, you know, it's not just me. You know, the best paid 10,000 economists in the world, all traders. All traders. They don't work for your governments. So that's the way the world is, I'm afraid. Yeah. I didn't make it that way.
The only bag that folds over and stays open. Ziploc. Unlock life.
Gary, welcome to Waterstones.
Thanks for having me.
We are right on the very top of our building here, which has a very impressive view of the London skyline. And if you sort of crane your head round to the left, you can see some of those big buildings. You'd have to really crane your head round, but a lot of those big city buildings that feature in your book, The Trading Game. I thought we should probably start with that title first of all, because the trading game was an actual game. Could you explain briefly what the trading game was, and also why it was really the only route for you into trading?
Yeah, so the trading game was a competition run at university by Citibank, the big American bank. In the early 2000s, I don't know when, I'm pretty sure they've stopped running it now, but I don't know when they stopped running it. And it's basically a card game, like a betting card game. So I guess a bit like poker. But it's designed to emulate the way that trading works in financial markets. And I heard about this game when I was an LSE student in 2006, late 2006. That was my second year at LSE, the London School of Economics. London School of Economics, for those that don't know, is a very prestigious, essentially a finance school nowadays. People go there to try and become bankers. And I was there from 2005. I was studying maths and economics. And I kind of naively thought that you go to university, you study really hard, you get good grades, you get a good job. And I was rudely awakened, let's say, at LSE, which is described in the book, basically. You know, my first year went kind of pretty normal, studied, did my exams, and then I turned up for second year, and basically everyone at LSE had gone completely mental. So they were just obsessed with trading, and not just trade investment banking in general. And the way that manifested was basically everybody was talking in these three-letter acronyms: CDSs, CDOs, MBS, M&A, and I had no idea what none of this stuff meant. And one of my friends told me, second year is internship year. And the way you get an internship, the only way to get a job is get an internship. And the only way to get an internship is to apply for like 30 banks. And you've got to send them your CV and cover letter. And that's when I realised that all of these guys, LSE has a lot of very wealthy students. That's when I realised that a lot of these guys had basically been like prepping for this cover letter since they were like, I don't know, 6 years old. They'd all been like president of the Junior United Nations, or like trekked through the Sahara Desert for charity, or played the oboe in the Royal Albert Hall. And I was like, you know, when I was a teenager, I was working at DFS, which is a sofa shop in Beckton, next to a sewage works, fluffing pillows, and trying to become a grime MC. This is my sort of, and I was like, this is probably
trying to
not
become a grime rapper, which
so it was really sort of,
I don't know what the equivalent is for that for the US.
Yeah, I was a really good student. I had really good grades, and I didn't study that hard. But you know, I thought that if you do well in your exams, you'll get a good job. And I found out that, you know, it doesn't really work like that. But sort of, luckily, this one boy in the year above from Grimsby, I'd never even met him before, wandered up in the library one day and said, you know, Citibank hire one trader a year, do this card game. And it's basically just like a maths game. And he just briefly described the game to me. And I entered that game, and I won the game, and I became a trader for Citibank, and that's the origin of this book.
It must be so weird looking back on that moment, as you say, because your path to LSE even was unconventional. and even more unconventional to find yourself as a trader at Citibank. But that moment of luck, I suppose, of that game existing, especially if it doesn't exist now, you must feel, I don't know, do you believe in fate, or does it sort of feel like it was always meant to happen that way, or do you just feel very lucky?
I think when you sit and look back at it now, it's easy to sort of talk about it as fate. And I was also expelled from school when I was 16. This is in the book, and that could have ended up with me having a criminal record, which I didn't, which I would never have gotten if I had that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think in a way, I should sort of try and be fair to young Gary. Young Gary was insane. Like young Gary, you've read the book. Like he was unbelievably competitive, and I suspect if this random trapdoor had not opened, he would have found the window open around the back somewhere. Because you've read the book, like, and sort of I wrote it. Obviously, that was me, but I like to think I'm a little bit more chill now. But he wasn't the kind of guy that works really, really hard, but he was the kind of guy that makes it happen. Because really, I don't think it's a coincidence that the same guy who found this unorthodox route into the bank 3 years later was the best trader in the world at that bank. I acknowledge that there was. If you come from where I come from, you need luck and skill. Yep. You definitely need both. But it wasn't all luck. There was a little bit of a trickiness in there, which got me through.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about Gary as almost like a character in a book. The book is really engaging to read, and it moves at a hell of a pace. And there are these fantastic characters that we meet through it.
What a game.
But was this your first, I suppose, I wonder about your approach to writing the book, presumably the first book you've ever written, and I wonder how you approached telling your own story, and whether there were any sort of influences on how you were sitting down to write that.
I'd never thought of writing I studied maths and economics. My sister studied creative writing, so it's kind of like she's the creative one.
Yeah.
I'm the numbers guy.
Gary.
This is a clip.
That was a wild game. We lost by 1%. I probably should have held. I didn't think the rest of my team would be able to follow me for that push. But if I would have held and used my ult with my whole team, I think we probably could have pushed for the win. Honestly, if we would have just sacrificed ourselves to the core, we would have won. But you win some, you lose some. I don't want to watch that later. Joseph Wang. But yeah, that guy is great. Gary Stevenson. I think it would be really hard to tax wealth because there's so many ways to avoid it. But I do think that something along those lines is going to have to take place to not go into a feudal system. I'll be right back. try one more of these. Then I might try some CS. Forgot to turn on my fucking gamer lights, boys. That's why we didn't win that last game. Fucking neons weren't on. I'll be Vala. I'm kind of bad on auto attackers, but I'll give it a shot. I'm not gonna lie, I was really disappointed that the Razer V4, Black Widow V4, had a bad wrist rest with it, because that keyboard, the switches in it felt phenomenal. The frame of it was a little bit cheap for the price point. It was about $200 after tax, $207 to be exact. Yeah, the frame felt a little cheap, and it didn't have a wireless option, which using this Asus Azoth, it's like heavier, it's weightier, it's got a metal frame. The switches feel the same, like the spacebar stabilizer is really nice, all the switches are nice, it's hot swappable, comes pre-lubed, comes with a little lube station and a couple extra switches. But man, the switches on that Razer did feel amazing. The one I had the Razer orange switches, but that I just couldn't keep using it with that that wrist rest. It just did not work. That snowball blind from their May is going to be annoying. I don't really understand how White Mane works, to be honest. I've never played her, I don't think. Man, I feel like for how squishy Vala is, you got to be so damn close. That's why I hate playing auto attackers. I feel like Vala, you almost need like a double tank composition. Ooh. Like their comp with Zarya having the shield and then also Mei as like a heavy tank. Their comp is better for Vala. I didn't realize we had double healer until just then when that Zim was following me. Need my tank to go in. No way that gets me from that far away. That was absolutely horse shit. I didn't realize that had 200 yards of range. I feel like with two healers, there's not a lot of healing going on. Oof, they got their ults. No! Yeah, this isn't going to go well. Our team comp is just dog shit. Alright, at least they're pushing into our structure there. Netted out even though, 1 for 1. Yeah, we should probably just let them in this. Our Muradin's 0-5. They have 2 tanks and a solid KT. Who must be toxic because he's auto-muted. There's no way, dude. How does that shoot 10 miles? I thought it had a range limit. I didn't realize it was just if he hits it on you, you automatically get trapped. That's horse shit. I have to go to the exit screen before it'll let me leave. Oh, hell yeah. I did a leg day earlier. Like, I'm going to go back and do another probably hour-ish long lift later. But I can already tell my quads are going to be pretty sore. I did like 20 minutes warming up on the stair stepper, and then a bunch of sets of squat, and then a bunch of sets of quad extension, just to really do like, I did drop sets on quad extension to get my quads extra pumped.
Hello my friends, today is April 27th and this is Markets Weekly. So this week was another volatile week in markets, but we did end the week up nicely. It looks like that 100-day moving average provided some good support for the S&P 500, and now we're right below the 20 and 50-day moving average, which I'm sure many bears would like to sell at. So I think that the short-term trajectory of markets is going to be heavily dependent on the big events next week. We got the Fed, we got the quarterly refunding announcement, and we got non-farm payrolls. As you all know, I continue to be positive on the equity markets. So today I want to talk about three things. First, we have we got the past week that seems to suggest that inflation is going to be sticky around 3%. That is, as we've been discussing for months, this inflation was transitory. Secondly, so it looks like the U.S. government is poised to seize Russian reserves and manipulate Ukraine. Now, I think this is a very big development in the
Let's give it to them, boys.
Oh, fuck. Forgot how slow the Magnum was. I shouldn't have picked it up. It takes like a full second after you click to actually shoot. Because it spools up. What do I want here? Maybe a Deeg? Go Deeg, grenade, decoy. Spend it all.
History of the monetary system, and it's going to have big impacts that will be felt for years and also have big impacts on asset prices. Let's talk about what some of those impacts could be. And lastly, so last week the Fed published its most recent semi-annual financial stability report, and in it is full of lots of interesting data on valuations and credit quality as the Fed staff sees it. So let's take a look inside to see what it's saying. Okay, starting with the big data prints. So the past week, we got the first estimate of first quarter GDP.
Remember, this isn't the killing house anymore. This is real life.
Get out of there. Really? See, it's funny because when I use the XM, from that range, I'll hit somebody with an entire clip and I hit him for like 12 damage. That guy shoots 3 shots and gets 2 kills. So inconsistent are the shotguns in this game. Fuck off. Nice shot. Ooh, get him. Nice. Nice red Deeg. Very cool.
I am en route with a hostage.
Nice. Well done.
We're going out. Fire in the hole. Decoy. Incendiary out.
Fuck off, dude. It's annoying how much you get slowed when you get hit. Like, I already couldn't see him when he hit me, and I still couldn't get away.
Hostages coming out. Throwing smoke. Throwing a Molotov.
Just go! Return the fucker! Jesus Christ. Making me nervous.
Time to move. Flashbang. Throwing fire. Grenade.
Wow. Kind of shit on him that time. I didn't even see anybody. I was too slow.
Are we rushing in? Or are we sneaky peeky like? Grenade out. Throwing incendiary. Incendiary.
Yikes.
Throwing a grenade. Smoking. Flashbang out. Decoy.
How did he not kill me? I should have died there.
Counter-terrorists win. I'm moving with a hostage.
I feel like I should have died there. That guy must have not hit me at all. I think I had 8 health going into that, and I ended with 2.
Grenade out.
That guy must be like griefing, trolling kinda.
Throwing flashbang. Grenade out. Laying down smoke. Escorting the hostages. Throwing fire.
Come on. That was some bullshit. My homie couldn't watch the smoke to see somebody pushed out of it. We're doing good for CT side though. So far anyways.
Remove any doubts in your head. It's us or them.
One bathroom, two bathroom. How are none of those shots hitting? This game is bullshit. This game's major horseshit. Like, you're telling me when I was shooting like a few shot bursts there and he was kind of bobbing back and forth, not one of those shots happened to hit him?
Go, go, go. Decoys out.
I'll bring the hostages out.
Epic. Max. Guy's a little sussy.
Let's go.
Fuck! I thought I heard them all out in the main area. Ha ha. Good one.
Let's go, fellas.
Ha. Good one. Sarcasm.
Grenade out.
Fire in the hole.
Decoys out.
Hey, Richard.
Terrorists win.
I didn't think that guy would think I'd come back out. Like, I knew he knew I was in there, but I figured he'd be looking the other way.
We will make them regret this day.
Let's not buy anything. Way she goes.
Let's go.
Ooh, Lego skin. Very cool.
Counter-terrorists win. We must work together.
I like how they added in like a little extra aimer thing if you hold a utility for a little bit. This. Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right, dude. Homie's got that not looking at you headshot skill. That was wild. Dude's looking like this and headshots me.
Let's move. Let's go. Laying down some fire. Throwing smoke. Grenade out. Throwing the flash.
Throwing smoke. Grenade out.
Oh, I didn't think he slipped in. I thought he was still outside the doorway.
Counter-terrorists win.
These guys need to buy smokes and chill. But they're not. So you can tell they're not actual office players. That guy's gonna go drop that AK where I can't get to it.
Last is paper or elbow. One of the two. Nice.
Oh, let's do this, right? As best we can. Molotov out. Throwing fire. Deploying smoke shield. Grenade. Throwing fire.
How do they just walk through our team?
Come on, let's go.
Fuck it. I'll go with this guy. Yeah, right, dude. Insta headshot from that far away. These guys are a little sus. GG. Let's get it over with. Ooh, if that guy would have waited a little longer, he probably would have got them both. Really? Wow.
Oh, nice. Let's go. Laying down some fire. Flashbang out.
Throw it to the guy.
Move, idiot.
Other side.
Probably for the best. We wouldn't have came back anyways.
GDP. And on the surface, it doesn't look good. So GDP growth printed at 1.6%, which was not just far below expectations, but also below trend. Secondly, inflation printed above expectations and looks like it's going to be comfortably above 3%.
Let's roll.
So all in, it looks like growth slowing, inflation accelerating, smells a little bit like stagflation. But I think below the surface, it looks a little bit better. First, let's talk about GDP. So GDP, obviously 1.6%, a big disappointment. But the people who really study this say that, you know, this GDP print is actually stronger when you look below the surface, because GDP is comprised of many different components, and some of them are quite volatile. Kind of like CPI, you have, you know, headline CPI is comprised, that includes price of energy, that is, you know, goes up and down, and you also have core CPI that excludes these volatile components. When it comes to GDP,
Did you hear that? We must move. Throw in smoke. Fog. Flashbang.
All right.
That works.
I didn't get to see nobody.
I hate to lose, so let's win. Smoke.
One tilted.
Throwing a flashbang. Flashbang.
Window.
Smoke. Grenade. Grenade.
He's close in the smoke.
Terrorists win.
Take it.
We will stop your little scout. Hey, thanks.
The day at the office.
Guy's got jokes. Holy shit.
One main all.
Smoke. Grenade out.
I'm gonna knife him. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. I'm gonna knife him. Don't kill him.
Throw to the car.
I got him. I got him. I got him. I got him. I got him.
Yeah, get him good.
Terrorists win. Yeah.
Nice. Baited.
Well done. Thank you. Can't go along with that. No. Throwing smoke.
These guys are aggressive, but it's working, I guess.
Throwing smoke. Throwing fire. Throwing fire. Smoke. I'm throwing a grenade. I'm throwing a flashbang. Terrorists win. We're on a real man. Go. I disagree. No more talking. Now we fight. Smoke. Smoke. Fire in the hole. Throwing smoke.
He's up big or outside garage.
Terrorists win. I fear no man. Nice of ya.
Couldn't hit that fucker. Heh.
Let's go, let's go. I think I heard someone. Smoking. Grenade out.
Jesus.
Fire in the hole. I'm throwing a flashback. Terrorists win. You will all die.
Can't even get a kill. Young Seth fucking kills 3 of them before I see anybody.
I heard something. Let's go. Smoke. Smoke. Grenade out. Throwing smoke.
Ah! I knew the second I turned, I was like, it's probably a bad idea to run through here, but I'm doing it.
Flashbang.
Oh, got him! That was nice. He was in the bushes.
Let us go. Smoke.
Oh, he fucked up his smoke.
I'm throwing fire. Throwing smoke. Smoke. Grenade out. Grenade. Throwing a flashbang. Grenade.
So, Moth, what up, buddy?
Both bathroom, orange.
How are his shots hitting me, but mine can't hit him? I don't get that. Like, it wasn't the angle. All I could see is that slight angle. How's the rain report?
Orange, you drop a couple guns?
Together we can do it. Smoke. Thanks a lot. Hey, throwing smoke.
Google Native American rain dance, and once it gets cloudy, do a rain dance like the Native American Indians would have done, you know? You gotta try something.
Oh my.
Fellas are gonna regret waking up this morning. Now that's a no.
Did you make yourself a brokerage account yet? Or have you been too focused on the books? I guess I shouldn't say too focused. I don't think one could ever be too focused, you know? If you're prioritizing getting your degree.
I think I heard something. Need help. I need support. Stay sharp. Get ready. This is a free fire zone. Stay frosty. Time to earn our stories. Anyone hear that? That's a no. Hold your positions. I've got movement. I'm waiting here. That's not gonna happen.
Are you talking about in terms of your internship?
Here we go.
Is that what the project is for? Or is it for school?
Remove any doubts in your head. It's us or them. Thank you. No, sir.
Bathroom? Bathroom.
Escorting the hostages.
Roger. To help them. Roger that. Roger. Counter-terrorists win. Champion. I disagree. Roger that. Roger that. That's a negative. Move it. Move it.
Can't hit him.
Throwing fire. Throwing flashbang. Smoke. Decoy. Grenade out.
There's one like pushed up in our office, in our spawn. One shot.
Counter-terrorists win. Got this. No. Go, go, go.
Yeah, 15 days seems really short.
Grenade out.
Stop, elbow.
Flashbang. Smoke. Deploying flashbang. Grenade out.
Bro! He eats my nade, he takes several shots, still alive. What the fuck was that? Oh!
Hostages coming.
That was risky as fuck. He knew he had an op, and he knew he was elbow. I don't know why he would grab that hostage with his back to him. Yeah, he ate a whole grenade and several shots. Oh! Damn, he was on him too. Good try, good try.
Let's make this right as rain. That's copy. Laying down smoke. Grenade. Flashbang. Throwing smoke. Throwing fire.
Fuck, I forgot about the op guy. What's this guy doing?
I am en route with a hostage.
That's crazy that Chad guy got back there without hearing him. You would have thought you had to hear him to get there that fast. What do I want here?
Move it, son.
Actually, let's sell this and get a smoke and a grenade. Yeah, they are. They were losing like every round before.
Stop,
Laying
elbow.
down smoke.
Where the hell did that fucking P90 go? It flew from that grenade, but I thought it would have hit this. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Thought I was going crazy for a minute there. Oh, fuck.
Why the hell is
GG. Oh, hell yeah. Rank up, even though rank really doesn't mean anything in this game. Rewards. I'll take it. I'm gonna list that case on the market. See how much you get for these ones. Oh yeah, I can't do it on this account. I gotta be on my main account. Because I haven't bought any games on this. Yeah, they were trying. They were giving it their best go. We'll try a different map. Oh yeah, I was listening, trying to make my way through this Joseph Wang video.
Net exports.
He used to work for the Federal Reserve, so he's a pretty trustworthy guy.
Stuff that's more volatile, looking at the core measures, let's say private final consumption, it looks a lot better, and frankly, it is decelerating, but it's still historically quite strong. And so a lot of the people who focus on this don't actually think that this was a weak GDP print. In fact, you can even make the argument that demand is quite strong in the US, so much so that it's spilling over and leading to more imports. And maybe the stronger dollar plays a role as well. So again, maybe the GDP print is not as weak as it appears to be. But the inflation print, though, is very, very clearly disappointing. So just to level set a little bit, for the second half of 2023, core PCE printed at bang on 2.0%, and now it looks like it's comfortably above 3%, at least for the first quarter of this year. Now, this is really eliciting a very strong market reaction, because if you think that, GDP continues to be strong under the surface, but inflation looks to be accelerating, then obviously it's going to have big impacts on monetary policy. The Fed just can't cut as much as it wanted to. So
hopefully it didn't come for high-level gameplay. Because clearly... Bastard. I like that guy's profile pic. What the hell? Oh, nice. Older sister, younger sister? I'd assume older. Because you're probably what, like 18, 19-ish? If you're just going to school, to college?
Move it, move it. Laying down smoke.
Are you a couple apps?
Grenade out.
22. So in that case, I guess the question of older or younger makes more sense. Man, I lit that guy like crazy.
Did they go A? One's the ladder room.
Jungle.
Yikes.
That was rough.
Oh, nice. She'll be international, because I think if you're married, you automatically get citizenship.
Gear up. We're going in. Grenade out. Throwing smoke.
Okay. Bomb down outside of Palace. I think my mic is super quiet.
Nice.
I don't know if it's louder. Should be towards 0, right? Yeah.
Ooh, nice thing.
Reload, reload.
Bomb has been planted.
He's not gonna pop out there. He went CT. Damn. So does he have like a degree in like probably engineering, I'd imagine? Some kind of maybe electrical engineering or something like that? Perhaps?
These fellas are gonna regret waking up this morning. Smoke! Throwing grenade.
2 top mid.
Yeah, right, dude. Are we getting like majorly smurfed, or how are these guys rounding corners already shooting me in the head? His very first shot was already a headshot.
Coming through connector now.
The jumping headshot. Yeah, these. I don't know if they're sus.
Throwing fire. Grenade.
Connector and jungle.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sounds like a pretty solid job.
Terrorists win. Bomb has been planted.
Do I save? I'm gonna go Deeg. All you really need is a Deeg and a Dream.
Throwing smoke. Throwing fire. Laying down smoke. Incendiary out. Throwing a grenade.
Come on, dude.
One cat. Apps and cat. Apps backed up.
Deploying flashbang.
I really hate the Magnum. I've seen people do well with it. Rip.
Bomb down mid. Jungle.
Nice. He's running to plant. He's running
He's
to
gotta run
plant.
the plant. He's got it.
Terrorists win. I think we're just outclassed here. I don't know if they're Smurfs or what.
Let's go.
It's alright.
Laying down smoke. Flashbang. Incendiary. Grenade out. Flashbang. Throwing flashbang.
One in apps.
Smoke.
Oh yeah. That 200k a year's damn solid.
Still one app.
Last is top.
No!
Now we're getting stuck right into them.
I want the tent.
Somebody want this up? I don't know what's wrong with my mic. A lot of times, people in game can't really hear me lately. Like, I've tried adjusting a few of the settings, and it doesn't seem like anything helps.
3 top mid. One cat.
Throwing fire. Grenade out.
Bunch connector.
Flashbang. Laying down smoke.
One's up, cat. He's past your smoke.
Grenade out.
Inlander. Yeah, bomb down.
Flashbang.
They're in sniper room. One's in jungle now.
Where is he? There he is.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I'm not gonna smoke main again because last time we double smoked it and that was just a waste.
Come on, chop chop. Throwing smoke. Throwing a grenade. Smoke. Incendiary out. Incendiary out. Grenade out. Grenade. Throw incendiary. Grenade out. Throwing fire. Throwing flashbang. Deploying flashbang.
I heard somebody shooting a tech back here.
One more app.
Thought I killed that guy. Upper mid with the bomb.
He's top mid with an op.
Do I run TikTok meme accounts? No. I'd consider it though, but it sounds like they might end up banning TikTok, which was really weird because the bill to ban TikTok was wrapped inside the Ukraine aid bill, which is really weird. Like,
Throwing smoke. Grenade out. Throwing fire. Grenade. Throwing fire. Throwing flashbang. Incendiary. Smoke. Deploying flashbang.
but yeah, it sounds like TikTok might end up getting banned,
Laying down smoke. Throwing smoke.
which kind of sucks.
Two apps.
Really?
Throwing flashbang.
How long's it been banned?
Throwing a grenade.
Shadow.
Counter-terrorists win. Shoot them. Pursue them.
Can I get an M4, please?
Let's have at it, mates. Smoke.
They smoke top mid.
Incendiary.
Feels like a B hit, guys.
Throwing fire. Laying down smoke. Deploying flashbang. Throwing fire.
How are these guys not dying? I literally stopped shooting because I thought that guy died.
Flashbang.
I'm trying to get. I need to get more meme activity in Discord.
Under.
Grenade out.
There's still stairs.
We need to have the
Can I be going
FOMC
back to B?
be the authority on memery.
One more con.
Bomb down con.
Jungle.
Flashbang. Counter-terrorists.
Nice.
There you go.
What is this badge I see? TwitchCon 2019. Is that the one where I think that was the one where Isn't that the one Dr. Disrespect brought his camera into the bathroom and got in trouble? I can't remember if it is or not.
Throwing smoke. Laying down smoke. Grenade out. Smoke. Incendiary out. Incendiary. Deploying flashbang. Throwing flashbang. Grenade.
Woo! I'm scared.
Deploying flashbang.
Firebox.
Oof.
Ooh,
Close.
scary.
Big scary.
I think the op is toward jungle.
Yeah, champion.
Can I get a buy again, please? Thank you.
Let's make this right as rain. Throwing smoke. Throwing a grenade. Throwing smoke. Flashbang.
Here, 2 upper mid.
Smoke. Laying down smoke. Incendiary out. Grenade.
No! I don't get how these people aren't dying. All I can see is his upper body and his head. I hit him multiple times.
Ow.
Nothing.
Grenade out. Fire.
Let's shoot top mid.
Incendiary.
Oof.
They're going A.
She's burning up.
Counter-terrorists win. Right on. Let's move out. Deploying flashbang. Grenade.
Fuck! He waited for me. They caught on to the fact that I was just running straight through there. Take this moment to finish up the Joseph Wang video.
Reaction to this news is, yields going higher, market pricing out, Fed cuts, and of course, equities selling off. Right now, it looks like the market is pricing in, just maybe 1.5, a bit less than 1.5 cuts this week, and I think that makes sense. The Fed's projections for this year was to end the year at about 2.6% core PCE and 3 cuts. If core PCE looks to be above 3% this year, and right now that's the trajectory, you definitely can't have 3 cuts. You can have 2, you can have 1, and something like that. So I think the market is being on for that. But note though, this is a very volatile series, and we could have different inflation prints, we could have weaker employment prints, and there is some indication, looking at, say, PMI data, looking at wage growth, that the labor market is softening. We can have weak labor prints, and that would completely change the calculus. But right now, it looks like we're going to get a more hawkish Fed than before. Jay Powell's pivot when he was at that conference in DC chatting with Governor Tiff Macklem of the Bank of Canada was
it didn't look like he hit that.
Was prescient, and maybe he knew in advance. Now, so I think the Fed meeting this coming week is probably not going to be too surprising. The market is already pricing in a lot of hawkishness. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about is that the House.
He's probably about to talk about.
I have a perfect death record.
Oh no! Oh no,
never
Coco,
out.
they're real. They're real. No, I want to sell that. Miss Coco, how are you doing today? I commented on the video, but I did want to say, I heard you mention on stream that you had pretty good reviews. The Klim video was excellent.
CT.
I enjoyed it.
CT.
I was watching stream shortly after that, and it sounded like the reviews were on the same page as me. Sarmath, have a good one. Hopefully you get some rain here soon.
I didn't die. I fucked up my record.
Come on, let's go. Quick fix.
But no, I'm a big trading and econ nerd, Coco, so I need the screen so I can look at all the charts at once. Oh, fuck. I'm taking the bomb, and none of my team is coming with me. I like to be able to see, like, every sector of the market, and I'm too lazy to change screens to type the different charts. So it's sheerly out of laziness. I kind of like that they added this in. One click to switch the sides of your gun. I don't think I'll ever use it on the left because it feels too weird, but... I had to have damaged him a little bit.
Flashbang. On my way to plant.
Oh god, they heard him plant. Damn. Oh. Was a good try. Don't worry, guys. I'm holding down the bottom of the leaderboard. It's about time to go back to the gym and get huge. Hit leg day part 2. I've been feeling a lack of motivation to play SC2. Like this, even though most of the time I'm not doing great, I still have fun just kind of shooting guns, you know? I'm just like, aha, I'm shooting at stuff, yay. But playing StarCraft lately, like, because anymore I work like 50, 60 hours a week, and then also do my lifting and trading stuff on top of that. That was a good shot. And then by the time I play StarCraft, it's like, it almost feels like work, you know? Like it takes so much effort. I think I've only played once since the new like map pool came out. It's too hard, and I'm getting old and slow. I'm 30 now. That's almost 40. Yeah, like by the time, like, so my normal, I work nights, so like my normal work schedule, I'm at work from like 11:30 p.m. to like 10:30, maybe 11 a.m. That's basically 100 even. I need to sign up for AARP. But yeah, and then a lot of days I'll get up at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, go to the gym, then go to work, and by the time I'm done with work, I'm just exhausted. I'm inbound ops manager for a LTL company, for a trucking company. So I'm the supervisor of all the dock workers, and then I do all the routing and planning for all the drivers. The routing part's actually kind of fun, to be honest. It's just kind of like a big puzzle. Like, I'm in Iowa, so basically our area that we cover is kind of like 2 to 2.5 hours in any direction from our terminal. And basically each day I'll have like 400 or 500 different orders. That could be like 1 pallet all the way up to like 12 pallets or more. And it's kind of like a puzzle of like getting all the orders to fit and like the routes to go in an efficient direction, and then also have it on a
voting each other off now.
Also have it on a driver who's qualified to take like whatever it is, because some drivers can't take like it might be corrosive hazmat stuff, and that driver's not certified to take that. So it's just like a big puzzle. It can be kind of fun. But the other 8 to 10 hours of the shift are not very fun. But it pays decently. But I'm pretty well set on leaving this fall and going back to school for economics, because I love that shit. But anything to do with economics, finance, markets doesn't sound, it doesn't feel like work at all to me. Hence, all the charts. That's what I do for fun. Yeah, it's not too bad. The only hard part is like, I'm not very confrontational, just like as a personality trait. And whenever I have to like kind of lay down the law on the dock workers or something, if they're not doing their job, that can be a little bit annoying, because, you know, being not very confrontational, I'm like, I don't want to be a dick to you, but I kind of have to get you to do your job. It's literally my job to get you to do your job. But I have a pretty good, like working relationship with most of them.
Just stick together.
If I gotta be a dick to them, I always started off by sharing a meme.
Stairs.
Counter-terrorists win.
What?
He aced us.
That was wild. Yeah, I'm a huge nerd for it. Like, actually, the first probably hour and a half of this stream, all I was doing is talking economics, and with a guy that comes into chat regularly. His Twitch name is Monelevin. All I was doing is showing some charts I made, based on some thoughts I've had recently. I guess I'll stay by the bomb so it doesn't get ninja diffused.
Terrorists win. Yes! Fantastic. This is a bloody victimless crime, this is. It's gonna go.
Yeah, I ended up spending like the first hour and a half going over. Normally on Saturday mornings, I have a Zoom call with a buddy of mine who's like, I worked with him when I was in high school working at a restaurant. He was one of the servers. And since then, he's went back to school. And when I first started thinking about going back to school, I reached out to him to kind of like show me the ropes, essentially, of like what to know when going back to school. And I made this because it's almost turned into like a weekly just hour or so chat. He's really big into energy, like the energy sector, nuclear energy, uranium, the power grid. So he'll always have some stuff to like enlighten me on in that area. And I've been working on making this. This weekend we didn't have the chat because he lives in Nashville and he's about to move to Chicago. So him and his wife were in Chicago looking at potential houses. But yeah, I ended up spending the first hour and a half explaining basically how I see the U.S. kind of moving towards almost a feudal state after reading this PDF. Well, this book, I should say, but you can find it as a PDF on the web. It was written in the early to mid 1700s, and it's like spot on of what's happening today. But I think I'm going to head out. I got to go back to the gym, get my second leg day in, make sure my legs are nice and sore. So hopefully I will see you around again. But for now, yeah, this is like, it tells exactly what happened to the U.S. manufacturing sector and how money flows. And it is like spot on of what happened to the U.S., but it's from the perspective of what happened to France and other industrialized cities in the 1700s. And you can actually see my name right now. My name right now in CSGO is Richard Cantillon. I always change the one on this account. It used to be Paul Volcker, who was a former Federal Reserve chairman. But with that, I'm going to head out. I may be back on later tonight. It probably won't be till like 7-ish Central Time. But I appreciate